So Shudder has a new movie that they threw out into theaters, which is really cool. I'm glad that Shudder has been having a lot of faith in their releases as of late and putting these things pretty wide. Whether it was Arcadian with Nicolas Cage or this, or like I feel like they're really, not everything, but a lot of stuff. You know, that they, and it says Shudder, like, as the movie starts in the theater, which is great to see, because, like, I wish Netflix would do this more. You know, I wish that these, Prime would do these more. Now, they do it somewhat, but I feel like Shudder has been pretty good about this, because this was playing at every theater around us. And, anyway, let's get into it. So, this is from the director of Caveat, which was another Shudder film that we watched 2 years ago, and we both didn't like, but everyone else seemed to love it. And it's a film I've always wanted to revisit, just because maybe I wasn't in the mood. You know, we did watch it at the salon on a computer with not great sound, so it's possible that we could go back and be like, wow, you know, actually this has a lot of atmosphere, and it was kind of lost on a small screen with bad audio. So
I'm curious.
You know, I am curious. So this movie, it's kind of hard to talk about what it's about without giving anything away. I went into this pretty blind. The only thing I knew about the film pretty much at all was that there was like a guy at the door with a weird eye, and that there was a wood doll that was like life size. And that was like kind of what I got from the trailer. I didn't really watch it because I typically try to avoid trailers. So this was pretty much blind to me. And speaking of blindness, this movie has all sorts of different sight. Okay, you got no eyes.
Yeah.
You've got one eye.
Yep.
You've got two eyes. You've got a third eye.
You
got all the different kinds of eyes. Yeah, all the different kinds of sights, all the different kinds of no sight. All right, so this will probably surprise Kaylee. I kept my thoughts to myself. We are going to get into the theater experience, because that's also important here. So stick around for that. We'll talk about that at the end, but you'll want to hear about it. It is legitimately top 3 worst theater experiences of my life.
It was bad.
But not because of the movie, because of people and things. Anyway, so as I said, I think my opinion on this will probably surprise Kaylee a bit, because I kept this to myself. I thought this movie was excellent.
Oh, good.
Like,
yay.
Like 100% this is making my top 10.
Oh,
without
wow.
question.
Yeah.
And as of right now, would probably be firmly in my top 3.
Wow.
That's like loved it.
I'm so glad. I loved it too. I said a little bit when we got out of the theater, but yeah, you didn't say anything to me, but I was just like, it was really good. I liked it, but I really loved it. I thought it was great too.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Longlegs, this could be my favorite film of the year.
Oh, wow.
I loved this so much.
Yeah.
I thought that this was haunting, chilling, atmospheric.
Yeah.
Really, really well shot. The scares in this are so well placed.
Yes.
This is how you do jump scares.
Yeah.
So I actually think that this film... So Longlegs is much more of an evil film, and I do think is more iconic for the future. But as far as the scares that I think people would be looking for, I actually think this movie provides better scares than Longlegs. I think that the startles in this are very effective.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with the camera work. I was very impressed with the setups for scares and the execution of them. I think the direction in this movie is phenomenal. It's flawless in my opinion. And I was very taken by performances, by the screenplay. I thought this was unique, felt fresh, even though it is familiar, right? It was able to take a subgenre of horror and reinvented in a way where it felt fresh, even though everything in the film still somewhat feels familiar as well.
Yeah.
So the when I saw the doll originally, the movie that
man.
came to my mind is a movie called The Fear, which is about a big wooden puppet. That movie is stupid. There's two of them. This one, on the other hand, I think is the surprise of the year in the genre. Lowlifes was this year?
Yes, Lowlifes was this year.
So
Lowlifes
that was another big
fantastic,
surprise for me. This is better. This is the biggest surprise of the
They're
year because I did
totally
not
different.
like Caveat.
No,
When we
no.
watched. In fact, we really didn't like it.
Which-
Like we were kind of making fun of it how much we didn't like it.
We gotta rewatch it. I'm very curious to revisit it, and it's fine if we don't like it. It's not like we have to like
No.
it just because we love this one. But yeah, Lowlifes is fantastic. It's just a very different type of horror movie to this. This, as you said, I agree with you. I think that as far as like the jump scares and the kind of like haunting imagery that people like look for, like in something. It's like a Conjuring or, something along those lines. This does that very, very well. And I am always a sucker for, like, haunted house, ghost story type of movies.
Yeah.
I love those concepts. I think that it's done all the time, and it's, like, one of, like, the oldest tropes, perhaps. But I just think that it speaks a lot to me, and I jumped in this movie. There was like one jump scare in particular that really got me. There's a lot of great imagery too. Like there's this doll that we like mentioned that's very iconic, very memorable. There's a mask that's used that is really scary. And just like the general like look of the house is very dark and haunting. Like haunting is a great word for it.
I also want to point out that I think some people, when they hear jump scares, they think cheap, right? That we're just throwing something at the camera and it makes someone react and is startled. That's not what I'm talking about with this one, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, boo movies where they turn the camera and they're in your face, but the way that these are executed is very effective and takes a lot of talent because it's the tension built around the scene and it's the placement of the scare that makes it work.
Yeah.
Right? It's the way the camera is used, it's the way the actors are used, it's the way the atmosphere is built, it's the way the set is played, it's all of it. Right? So anyone can make, someone jump by throwing something at their head.
Put like a loud noise.
Right.
And like
That's not what this is.
No.
This is like you're creeped out.
Yeah.
And then it swells to something and you know it's coming, but it's the way it comes and the visual that you see that's scary. Right? It's not just that it's there, but that what is there is chilling.
Yes.
So I
very
think
much.
that adds to it. I think there's a lot of like really chilling imagery in this that will stick with you. And I just, man, there was definitely films I could liken this to as far as like style. We saw one earlier this year that reminded me of this, which was cool because this had an indie feel to it. And I always love seeing these kinds of movies in theaters, and I love supporting films like this, even if our theater experience was god awful, which makes me wonder how much more I would have liked this movie
sure.
had we
Yeah.
not had so
Yeah.
many terrible things happening around us.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say this is a really dark film in terms of like the lighting and how everything looks. So I would definitely, like, if you go to the theater and you're in one of those theaters where it's like really hard to see the dark parts of the movie, I would honestly leave because I feel like you'll miss out on a lot of the tension and even some imagery that's in it,
Yeah.
in the darkness.
The film that this reminded me of from this year, but a better version of it. And I did like this movie quite a bit. I don't think it'd make my top 10, but it was good. It was a very good indie film. And it was called, like, You'll Never Find Me, I think is what it was called. The guy's
Oh
out.
yeah.
In the
We really liked that one.
yeah,
It's
like a mobile home.
Yeah, very indie film.
And she comes and knocks at the door, and then comes in.
Yeah. I like that. I like that comparison.
It also, like, the opening of this movie, I would compare very heavily, and it's probably just as effective, which is huge praise, because it's one of the best, most effective openings of a film ever, and that's When a Stranger Calls. It has a very When a Stranger Calls vibe to it, and I love that about it, because the way it plays, and it is one of those impossible situations because of the information that's conveyed. You're like, what the fuck? What do you do here?
Yeah, it's like a rock and a hard place kind of situation.
100%, and you genuinely don't know. And the way that the story now. Is the, like, reveals all that surprising? No, I guess them. But the way that the information is given to us, there's really smart cuts here to let the audience wonder if they missed something. And the director's kind of like, I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We're coming back. And it's like, you get more information later that you're like, oh, that changes things.
Yes, yeah. I think the story is to an extent predictable, but it's done so well.
Yeah.
It's just a very common, like, plot line that you'll find in so many films, but I really loved everybody's performance too. I like the characters a lot, even though there are some definitely like unlikable characters, like, but I liked to dislike them, and I think that speaks obviously to the writing and to the actors' performances as well. So it was very gratifying to watch because of that.
This is like the third film in the last month, and I want to say 2 of them are from Shudder. So Shudder's killing it this year. This might be the best year Shudder's ever had, because I loved Arcadian. I was a big fan of that one. Yeah. And as I was saying, I think we saw like 3 films now in the last month that would probably make my top 5 currently. And I'm not like some fucking asshole who's only watched 8 movies, like most people on YouTube, who are like, it's in my top 3. And I'm like, bro, you've only seen fucking 3 movies. Everything's in your top 3.
A lot.
I've watched over 110 horror, like 2024 horror films this year. So when I say a top 5 or top 3, it actually means something. But it was this, Longlegs, and The Devil's Bath.
Oh yeah,
I love these films.
I probably fall. I'm trying to think. I think there was another movie that I really loved.
But you like Maxine more than I did. But that was like 2 weeks ago.
Maxine would probably be in the top 5. But I don't know. I need to look at my list. But I agree. I think that this is for sure a top movie of the year. I think it's one that will probably get overlooked because right now all the hype is around Longlegs, and Longlegs is fantastic. And of course, like, you can watch our 2 reviews that we've already done on that for all of our gushing and praise. But this is another one that it definitely deserves the attention, and I think it's going to get overlooked by people because of the timing.
Not anymore.
But if you're watching this,
because
you should go out to the theater if you can and support it. And if you can't, then definitely keep an eye out for it on Shudder, because this is a movie that I'm excited to watch at home in like a quiet, dark environment, because I think it will definitely add to the creepiness. So maybe that's a good transition into our theater experience. That was very different.
Yeah, after we tell them this, they probably won't want to go to the theater. So we get to the theater, and so little context to this story. During Longlegs, we had talked about this in our spoiler-free discussion, where we said someone had fallen asleep and was snoring very loudly, but it was mostly towards the end of the film. And when we were going to leave the theater, I like walked by and saw who it was, and was just like, oh, it's kind of like, looked like a homeless guy who comes in there to sleep or whatever, which I have tons of thoughts on that. But so we get in there, we're like 10 minutes into this movie, and I'm like hearing something, and I look at Kaylee and I'm like, that sounds like snoring. Again? No way. So then the snoring starts, like loud.
It's loud.
Loud
it's really
snoring.
Loud. And this is a very quiet movie.
Yes.
So.
Yes, this is an atmospheric, slow burn, quiet film. So if you want to go sleep in a theater, go sleep in Twisters. I saw that earlier today,
so
and he could have slept through that whole thing, and I wouldn't have heard him because there's a fucking tornado every 5 minutes. That's not true, but it was a very good movie. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So he's snoring, and I'm like, fuck, am I going to have to be the guy to go up? So some guy behind us with like a blanket on, it looked like a hospital blanket. It was weird. He got up, and he was pissed.
Yeah.
And he like stormed down there, and I was like, oh shit, like, are they going to start a fight?
Yeah.
And he just walked past him and just right out and was like, he said something like, dumb motherfucker, or like something along those lines. And I was like, you couldn't have woken him up on the way out? Like, really? Like, you know you're pissed, and I know you want him to leave. So then I'm sitting there, and he's like, it gets so loud after that. Like,
really
like comically
yeah,
loud.
like, I actually thought it was a prank or something for half a second because of how loud it got.
Right.
Yeah.
So finally, I just fucking like, because he didn't do anything, I was like, okay, I guess it's going to be on me. The theater was like, it was a small theater.
There was a handful of people in there.
There was at least
were all,
10
like,
people in
actively watching the movie and also
there. And people were like
actively
laughing.
reacting, to his snoring.
So I got up and I walked over to him and I slapped him on the leg and was like, bro, wake up. And he kind of looked at me and I looked at him and I was like, motherfucker, this is the same guy that was in Long Legs sleeping. And it was the same homeless guy who clearly comes into these movies. And I'm like, why would you pick short, quiet horror films to come sleep in a small theater? So they put the horror films in the small theater. I'm sure he just wanted, like, you know, he's probably trying to get tickets to something that maybe it doesn't have a lot of people in it or something. But if I was him and I was going to do this, as I said, I would look for because you pick your seats nowadays. I would look at the fucking screen and I would say, okay, what's the loudest movie that they have? And I would look for whatever action film they have. And I would find a theater. I would come early in the day when there's no one in the theater, and I would pick a seat as far away from everyone who's already there. And you'd have to come like a few minutes before the movie started. And then you pick that and you go up there. And yeah, that's that. But anyways, I wake him up. We come and I sit back down. Before that, though, funny enough, and this is on me, and this is the only time this has ever happened, ever. So to add to this, so Kaylee likes to get pictures of the title cards, and she always is very, very like respectful and like tries to keep it against her chest and turns down all of her lights and everything, and she makes sure whatever. And I was like, I got this one, and I put it down, and she did this once too.
I did this.
So I put it down, and it's like 15 minutes into the film before you get the title card.
Yeah.
And I kept it open, and my phone never turns off. Like, I have it never turn off. And I went and I picked it up, like, because the title card came on, and I was like, oh, shit. And I, like, picked it up really quick, and it was off. And I was like, fuck. So, like, I hit, you know, when your lock screen's on, you can press the camera and hold on it for a second. I was, like, fumbling. And I went to take a picture of it really quick, and the fucking flash was on. And I immediately was like, oh, no. And I covered it. I was like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry.
It was so
And I have no doubt that the guy behind me was probably pissed at me and the guy. So it was kind of like, motherfuckers, like, this guy's snoring, this guy's taking pictures. And I was like, oh my God. So I was the first asshole.
Yeah.
Then this guy starts snoring. That guy walks out of the theater, like, very angrily, very loud, very, you know, says shit as he's leaving.
Probably like 20 minutes in.
Then I wake the guy up, sit back down. 20 minutes passes, maybe 30 minutes passes, and lo and behold, motherfucker starts snoring as loud as hell again. I'm like, oh, who didn't see that coming?
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, God. I was going to get up, but then, like, and after I woke him up, the guy who bailed, because I only waited a few minutes after him to go get him, but then the manager came in.
Yeah.
And, like, looked, or no, I'm sorry, the manager wasn't that person. This was, like people that, just regular staff came in and looked at him, and he was awake, so then they left.
Yeah.
Then he fell asleep again, and then the guy next to me got up and went down, got a manager. She came in, she woke him up.
Yeah.
And then, like, at that point, we literally missed an entire sequence of dialogue because I was so distracted by this guy, by the snoring.
Yeah, it was very distracting.
By all of that stuff. And so I was, like, super pissed. And then I was still really into the movie, but I was, like, pissed because that's why I was, like, super...
Yeah, you wanted to watch it.
Like, if we were watching some shit movie that I hated, like when we went and saw, like, we didn't see Dear David in theater. I was like, you wanted to see it in theaters.
No.
But we saw, like, Imaginary. If it was happening in Imaginary, I just laughed and been like, this is crazy, but because I was enjoying the movie. So anyway, yeah, that guy gets up, goes and gets a manager. They come and wake him up. Don't make him leave after multiple people. You had a guy walk out, go get people. You had people. Then when we left at the end, I'm not done with what's happened in the theater, but when we left, there was a guy up front who was sitting the guy that was sitting behind him and in front of us was up at the counter like, this guy fucking slept through the whole thing. He was snoring. People had to keep waking him up.
Yeah.
He was pissed.
He was complaining.
And then... This is crazy. I've never had this happen. And I've been to the theater more than almost anyone on this fucking planet. We were like, we're talking climax of the film, last few minutes. It's during this big moment when the tension is building. The whole thing's culminating to some huge, bombastic thing. And we're like waiting and we're all like on pins and needles. The dude's finally fucking awake. My phone isn't going off. No one's running out of the theater. Everyone's finally like in on it, and then boom, the lights. And when I say lights, I'm not talking the lights on the side of the wall that like dim up and it like illuminates the room a bit. I'm talking the overhead lights that like they put on to clean it after people are out of there. That brightens the room way brighter than what we're like. If you were inside a Walmart. Like, that bright.
Was so
it came
jarring.
On so fucking light. We were like, what the... That scared me more than anything, because I was not expecting it at all.
Yeah.
And they kept those on for, like, 20 seconds, and everyone in the theater just kind of started laughing, like, is this a joke? This guy's sleeping. This is happening.
Yeah.
This is going on. And then they shut him off, like... And something happened while the lights were on.
Yeah.
And I was like...
I totally, like, lost...
Fucking insane.
Yeah, lost all of the, like, the impact, really, that it would have had if the lights had been off. Because, like, there's something very weird about being in, like, a very dark movie that's supposed to be, kind of an intimate horror movie. And then all of a sudden, like, the lights are on and you can, like, clearly see, like, everybody and everything around.
Well, we all looked around at each other like, what the fuck? Is the movie over? Or, like, did I fall asleep?
Say that it broke the immersion. The immersion that everybody was, like, trying so hard to hold on to.
Yeah, we're desperately clinging on to.
The distractions. It was pretty awful. So, but despite that, we still love the movie, and this probably won't be your experience at the movie theater, most likely.
Fuck.
I know it's a gamble sometimes, but
me and the guy
if you can wait, you can definitely always catch it on Shudder.
Me and the guy next to me, we looked at each other when we got up and we just laughed, and I was like, that was a hell of an experience, huh? And he was like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
We were the two guys that actually got up to do something about the guy. But it was just like, I was trying to be cool because, like, I sympathize. It's 115 degrees in Arizona.
Yeah.
We can get into all sorts of different discussions of, like, why there's poverty and all of this stuff. Like, I have my own beliefs on that stuff. So I am sympathetic. I was homeless for 7 months. I get it. I know how it is. But, Kaylee and I talked about this. She was very sympathetic to it. A little too sympathetic to it, in my opinion. Because, she didn't want him removed. And I was like,
no.
Babe, you cannot have this guy in here. He had multiple people pissed off, walking out. Like, it's just bad for business. I get
call
it.
The police
I get
or something and take him away.
You're going to definitely be the bleeding heart here.
I know.
I am sympathetic. I really am. But it's like, he didn't seem to care at all. And, like, when I went and hit him, like, bro, wake the fuck up. I was pretty annoyed.
You didn't, like, hit him. You were like...
no, I didn't have
like,
wake the
you
fuck.
said slap earlier, too, but I think you meant tap.
I just went up to his leg and I was like, yo, he's a big dude. Like, really big. But, yeah, it's so funny that he's the exact same guy that was in Long
We're gonna go.
Legs
It's funny
snoring.
because we're gonna go see Longlegs tomorrow morning, and like he might be there.
No, fuck, he's not. Fuck, he's not.
If he is,
If he's in there, I will go talk to the management,
yeah.
and I will say he's got to go. He's got to go. This is 3 movies in a row. No fucking way. So I have a feeling they're gonna talk to him.
Yeah.
Because that's crazy. You can't. And as I told Kaylee, if he could figure out a way to not snore, I don't give a shit if he watches the movie. He can sleep through every fucking movie he ever watches in his life. I don't care.
You're paying to go
but when he's like, it's like, bro, you ever watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and fucking Del Griffith is like clearing his airwaves before he goes to bed? That's how fucking loud it was. It was craziness.
It was really loud.
So, no. If he can figure out a way, he can wear one of those like breathing strips.
I don't know that that's always worked.
I know. I'm just saying. If he can figure out a way and he buys a seat and he just wants to sleep silently, have the fuck at it. Rip Van Winkle that shit. I don't care. Yeah. But if you're going to disrupt my movie that horribly, no way.
I know.
So that's that.
That's that.
All right.
So check it out.
That's the caveat.
Tell us. Oh.
I will say this. Definitely keep your eyes out for that, because this is definitely in the same universe.
Yes.
So that's that.
But tell us if you watched it and what you thought.
And what's your worst theater experience?
What's your worst theater experience, or what was your experience when you saw this movie at the theater?
This is not my worst experience ever, but it's definitely top 3.
Yeah, this is definitely top 1, top 3. I don't know that I've had 2. Most of them have happened with you, I feel.
It always happens to me.
Well, it's because we go to the movies so much. That's why. But I
go like 3 times a week.
Yeah, and before I definitely was not going as often. So I don't know that I've ever had like a really bad experience. But
shit, I
definitely don't like. I will say, not even though this video has gone on too long and it's like not even the review anymore, but I definitely don't
This is part of the review though.
Yeah, I guess it is. But I don't like when people talk in movies, which is not a new thing, obviously. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I get very uncomfortable when people are like interactive sometimes. It depends on the movie and it depends, I guess, on like the vibe, but for the most part, like, because it does break my immersion. I just want to be like I'm inside the movie. Like that's the whole point of like the big screen to me, is that I'm like there. And then if somebody says something and I like come out of it and I'm like, because one of the big triggers for me, because I do have anxiety when we go to the movie theater sometimes, and what happens is that I will suddenly become very self-aware that I'm sitting in a movie theater watching a movie, and it kind of makes me like have an existential crisis for some reason. Like versus just being invested in the movie and the story and like losing myself to it.
I think the theater experience is just that. It's an experience, and you're always taking rolling the dice, taking a gamble when you go into a theater. That's part of the theater experience, right? Like there's proper theater etiquette for sure.
Oh yeah.
You shouldn't be on your phone. Ha 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 ha. I made sure but the flash went off. I've never done that before, ever once. I never even take pictures, nothing, but she likes them. And I was like, I got it. What an asshole. And there was like no one around me, so like I could do it where it would be not distracting at all, but I shouldn't have done it. It is what it is. She was going to do it if I didn't, and she wouldn't have fucking flashed. But it's part of the experience.
Yeah.
Right? Like you go to the theater and you deal with kids and you deal with screaming babies and you deal with snoring people and you deal with fucking all sorts of crazy things. So this is what I want to hear. Once again, worst theater experiences you've ever had. Give us the stories. I could definitely go off on a list for me, because I've been to the theater so many times. I've been to the theater thousands of times in my life. So you're bound to run into some crazy shit. And, I go to movies opening night. So they're always packed. So there's always more of a chance that you're going to get
the
more.
General public there. Yeah. Especially with horror movies, too. Because, like, whenever you have, like... When you have, like, smaller horror movies and it's, like, just the horror fans are in the audience, I feel like those are usually better. But when you have, like... general
it's a bunch of kids who are coming in there and they don't take the genre seriously and they think it's like just fun and like popcorn throwaway entertainment that they're like, no one gives a shit about this is stupid anyway.
They're like laughing at very inappropriate scenes that are just like Like, I get it, but no.
But our crowd seemed to be really into it. The guy
Yeah.
next to me, his girl screamed.
She was freaked out.
She was pretty freaked out. So
I was really freaked out too. This is it's a scary movie. It's definitely one that will be like keep you awake potentially at night.
But yeah, I mean this experience is a rarity. You know, it's definitely an oddity. Anyway, that's that. It also kind of reminded me of the Friday the 13th television series, which I meant to mention, but we're way past the review now. And the main actress, who is... Oh, we didn't even talk about her. She plays 2 different roles in this, and I thought she was a standout. I thought she was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. She's phenomenal.
And she looks exactly like another actress that I cannot come up with, and I'm going to freaking jump off a cliff. All right, guys. Let us know about your theater experience, and if you see this, definitely see it. If you don't want to go to the theater, it'll be on Shudder soon enough, and it's fucking worth your time.
Definitely.
All right.
Bye.